They don't want to pay people a union pay scale. They want project labor agreements to not be used so that they can pay people less.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
AWF Union podcast. Let's go to Alabama right now. Welcome back to the show. We check in with Jacob Morrison and sometimes Adam Keller on behalf of the Valley Labor Report, doing great work. TVLR.FM is the website. Jacob is president of the North Alabama Area Labor Council, and he's a member of AFGE Local 1858. We all know what's happening with the American Federation of Government Employees around the country. A lot of lawsuits pending. And he's here to talk about a couple of things that are going on in Alabama. There's some good news and there's some bad news. Jacob, welcome back to America. You can never get all good news. You know that.
Yes.
Let's start off with some good news. Okay. I want to be positive here. And sometimes it's very difficult to find the good spots. And apparently your governor signed a piece of legislation providing paid parental leave to state employees. And that includes school teachers. And I know union density in Alabama is higher than other southern states, but it's good to see that this is happening. Maybe you can give us some details on the law. I understand it doesn't go into effect until the beginning of July. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Talk to me about this good news. Jacob, go ahead.
Yeah, so like you said, Governor Kay Ivey signed a piece of legislation that gives paid parental leave to state employees and teachers, 8 weeks for mothers and 2 weeks for fathers, and that's for childbirth, adoption, stillbirth, or miscarriages. So it's a relatively, especially for the first round of parental leave for state employees in Alabama. I think it's a relatively good policy, and it also passed almost unanimously in both houses. Like there was only one or two people in the state house that voted against it, and one of them was just a freak. Like he said in an interview about why he voted against it. He said something about, well, if we do this might, incentivize more people to work in the public sector instead of going into the private sector, I don't know if this is something that he's always believed, but it reminded me a lot of that fork in the road email from Elon Musk that federal employees got that said, we want to incentivize people leaving the public sector to and going into the private sector. And it's like, there are all of a dozen private schools in Alabama. Like they're not that many. Like, what are you talking about? Do you not think that schools should exist? I mean, it was a real just kind of jaw-dropping sort of statement that he put out about why he voted against it. But nevertheless, he was only one of two people. He is also resigning here soon. I don't think it's necessarily related, but it is going to be his last. This is his last term. So, it's good news. Alabama Arise played a huge role in getting it passed. The AEA was also obviously supportive of it. And so, yeah, we're really excited to see this here in Alabama. And I hope that, I know that it will be very helpful for folks who have children as state employees, because I was talking to people, and we all remember growing up having so many teachers, because obviously, most teachers are women, at least in Alabama. And we all remember having, at least one or two teachers a year in the school taking off a couple of months because they had children. And it's just dawned on some people, like as they're seeing this pass, that, oh, wow, those teachers didn't have paid parental leave. Like they were just going on leave without pay while they had their children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just terrible that we forced so many people to do that. And glad that's not going to have to happen anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of lawmakers that don't read the room properly. And that's what's going on in America. We're supposed to be pro-family. That's what this is all about.
Right.
You want parents to have kids and more kids, and that's what it's all about. And then and then you have this guy saying, "Wait a minute, it's going to really screw up the public system here. Oh my gosh, they're going to want public jobs." Well, anyway, it's good to know that he's going to be leaving. Let's move on now. Project labor agreements. I mean, this is huge for organized labor in the building trades. And now you have a senator there who's proposing legislation to ban project labor agreements. Jacob, you got to fill me in here because this is not good. Not good at all. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, absolutely, Flash. So one of our senators, U.S. Senator Katie Britt, not the dumbest person in the Senate, that'd be Tommy Tuberville, but still not good. Katie Britt, before she was in the Senate, she was the president of the Business Council of Alabama. And before that, she was chief of staff for former U.S. Senator Richard Shelby, who, while I'm giving out trivia facts, Richard Shelby entered the Senate as a Democrat in the 90s, but then, like so many Democrats in Alabama, switched his party affiliation and continued to serve in the Senate for a while. But anyway, she introduced some legislation that would ban the use of project labor agreements on federal construction projects. And and I'm sure most of your listeners know about project labor agreements, but just really quickly, project labor agreements, all they are is an agreement between the developer and the building trade unions to sort of set a standard for construction on the project: wages, working conditions, safety training, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say, generally speaking, PLAs do not say that non-union contractors cannot bid on project labor agreement projects. They just say that if a non-union contractor bids on that work, well, then they have to pay the union pay scale. And of course, that's actually the problem. They don't want to pay people a union pay scale. And so they want project labor agreements to not be used so that they can pay people less. And of course, the argument that is going to be public from Katie Britt and people like her is that this is going to save the government money and that project labor agreements are wasteful and they're just, pork to unions and they don't actually benefit anybody.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
And of course, and I'm sure that you've seen some of the studies that actually show. There was one, literally just a couple of weeks ago from the Illinois Policy Institute, or the Illinois, I think it was the Illinois Policy Institute or the Illinois Economic Policy Institute. Their study showed that project labor agreement projects are actually less expensive than non-PLA projects because PLA projects are actually significantly less likely to have to go through rework or to go over budget or get behind schedule because you have people that have the proper training, you have less safety incidents and stuff like that. And so actually there have been multiple studies that show that PLA projects are less expensive. But even if, I know, that for some people who don't like thinking, second and third order effects, that it might be difficult to imagine that, PLA projects are going to in the end be less expensive, because the whole thing basically, or a big thing about project labor agreements is that pay the people more, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a big part of it.
Yeah.
And so even if you don't accept, even if for some reason all of the studies that say that PLA projects are less expensive, you don't accept any of those. Well, I think that if you go to most people and you say that our public money is going to go towards a construction project, here are the two options. We can have a project labor agreement that sets a good standard for the people that work on this project, or we can allow the people who do this public construction to go to the lowest bidder, and we can fund with our public dollars a race to the bottom and have people, the non-union contractors shipping folks from out of state in, paying them just the lowest that you can absolutely do, and and them not have the training, then have more deaths on the job and things like that. And I think that most people are going to say, no, I would rather pay a little bit more. Actually, I would rather pay a little bit more so that the people that build the United States actually can have a living wage. I don't think that's super controversial, and we're already feeling the effects of the administration's antipathy to PLAs. Of course, this legislation has not passed yet. I am hopeful that it will not pass because it would be very detrimental for the building trades if it does pass later on. But we know that still this administration it does not like PLAs, and Hegseth has issued an order to rip up PLAs on Department of Defense construction, which is, I still frankly don't understand how he can do that, because the executive order from Biden is still in effect. That is one of the executive orders that Trump has not overturned. The one that says all federal construction over $35 million has to be done with a PLA. Trump still hasn't overturned that. It's been challenged in a few different venues, but Trump still hasn't overturned it. But Hegseth said no more PLAs on Department of Defense construction. And there was some big construction that was happening in Huntsville that we already had a PLA. It was at the Missile Defense Agency. It was going to create 200 to 300 jobs. And under that PLA, they were going to be good paying, mostly union jobs, all of them at a union pay scale, people that live in Huntsville and Madison County. And now they have ripped that project labor agreement up. They're going to have to totally rebid the work. And it's most likely going to go to bottom of the barrel non-union contractors who are still going to have to pay the Davis-Bacon pay scale. But of course, you know that the Davis-Bacon pay scale is not as good as it could be. The iron worker journeyman scale for Davis-Bacon in our area is $18 an hour. Right?
Yeah.
That is how much the Iron Workers Union pay their apprentices. Right?
Yeah.
And so we can have a situation where people are literally getting paid half as much as they would have if this had been a PLA project right here in Huntsville. 200 to 300 jobs affected. So that's the kind of stuff that this PLA bill would do nationwide at all federal construction. Really bad.
Now, Jacob, what are the trades saying about what's going on over there in Huntsville with that project? And here's Hegseth not, talking to his boss about the legislation that's currently on the books. That we have a problem here.
Right. Yeah, of course, they're really frustrated. I think that there's obviously just like there is with any project, there's going to be an attempt to try to work with the developer and try to get what jobs they can get. But I don't know how much, and it is frustrating because the deal was already done, right? The contract was signed. Our building trades people were ready to go to work. They were ready to get started. And now, talk about government efficiency. Again, you have to rebid the whole thing.
Yeah.
But, of course, I'm sure that they've gone to the developer and said something along the lines of like, just because we can't have a PLA anymore doesn't mean that we can't work together on the order of what we've already agreed to. And so, it remains to be seen how the developer is going to approach the construction on the project. But I'm not super hopeful, frankly.
Yeah. Well, let's face it. Everything is in turmoil right now. Everything because of what happened with this administration. Okay. One more thing. We had some protests all over the world on Saturday. I'm hearing there's more to come. Talk to me about Huntsville. I guess you had a pretty good turnout there, right?
Yes, we did. So Huntsville had some 2,000 people come out, actually, to support the protests. And I've been in Huntsville my entire life, and I have been political in Huntsville since like 2014. And so I've been to my fair share of protests. Obviously, I've had more or less the same politics since I have become political. And so I don't get to go to a lot of winning parties here in Alabama, and I'm always protesting something or other. This is for sure the biggest anti-Republican protest that I have seen. And I'll put that qualifier on it because the George Floyd protest in Huntsville is significantly bigger than even this was. I mean, I think that there were probably some 10,000 people out at that in Huntsville. It was the whole park. I mean, it was standing room only in the entire park. I've never seen anything like it. But that wasn't so much, against, even though that happened under Trump, it wasn't as if people were coming out and protesting Trump. The Republican mayor of the city was there, right? I mean, it was a really kind of unique sort of event, the initial George Floyd protests. But this one was explicitly like people were not happy with Donald Trump and what he is doing to the country. So that was really interesting. The people who have gotten involved in this 5051 organization are folks that we know in the Labor Council. They're not union members, but they're folks that we have been familiar with for a long time. And so we feel very comfortable with at least our local group of the 5051 folks. And they, like a third of the speakers were union members and members from Labor Council affiliated unions. I was one of the speakers, as was my local union president and a CWA member. And we got, great responses from the crowd for our, pro-union messaging. And we actually closed out singing Solidarity Forever. So it was, I think it was really good. And I think that the crowd was really receptive to, the idea that unions are under attack. And when unions are under attack, the rest of the working class is also under attack.
Yep.
And that's going to be problematic for everybody. And so, of course, lots of folks concerned with Social Security and Medicare and things like that. And we'll be out at the next one. And I'm looking forward to maybe even seeing more people out.
Jacob Morrison, who's president of the North Alabama Area Labor Council, also co-host of the Valley Labor Report along with Adam Keller. TVLR.fm is the website. You can also check them out on X as well as Facebook. You say hi to Adam for me, and I'm sure we'll be talking down the road. Okay, brother?
All right. Thanks, Flash.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project. And you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.